Good morning, this is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Monday, August 31st, 2020. Impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. For today, we do have a fair amount of precipitation and much cooler temperatures moving into mainly the central Idaho mountains and eastern Idaho and western Wyoming, with some very gusty winds still in place over Nevada and Utah out ahead of that cold front. Low relative humidity is there as well, and an isolated chance for a thunderstorm here or there over the higher elevations of northern and northeast Utah. On Tuesday, cooler temperatures filter further south into the basin, and we'll see some continued gusty winds just right across the far southern tip of the geographic area. And by Wednesday, through the remainder of the period, hot temperatures return, starting with far western and southern Nevada, and then spreading throughout the geographic area, near records expected. First, taking a look at our smoke for this morning. This is the near surface smoke. We've got some smoke across northern Nevada and then southern and central Nevada filtering in through the central of Utah. We can kind of see Idaho's getting a break because we're having northerly flow move into the state there. And by the afternoon, that cold front will continue to work its way a little bit further south through the basin, bringing some smoke down into northern Utah by this afternoon. And taking a look at the upper air, much the same pattern, although not quite as much smoke making it that high. But by this afternoon, some of the smoke from northern Nevada will filter into northern Utah. Past 24 hours weather is shown here. No precipitation and very little lightning. Current fire activity for the past, recent fire activity anyway, is shown here with the red dots showing our new initial attack fires over Idaho and Utah. Activity was fairly light over Nevada yesterday. And our precipitation for the past 14 days is shown here in inches on the left and percent of normal on the right. Still a very dry signal for Utah and southern Nevada, and even the higher elevations of western and central Idaho. Really the only area that got significant precipitation over the past couple of weeks was southern Idaho and down into far western Nevada. ERCs are still pretty high over northern and central Utah, with some stations still coming above that 97th percentile and setting records for the time of year. Slightly lower values across the north and west. Over Idaho, we'll definitely see these values drop significantly over the next couple of days with that precipitation and cooler temperatures across the north. Closer look at ERCs show those central Idaho mountains, the Payette there right around normal for the time of year. And then the northern Utah mountains still above the historical records and have been there for the last month or so, really. Live field moisture for sagebrush is shown here for a couple of sites across the basin. Sagebrush is all for Idaho and Nevada right at normal. And then this one site in west central Utah is at the historical minimums and has been really all summer long, and that kind of shows where we've seen those larger fires pop up. This morning's satellite imagery is showing that very broad area of low pressure across southern Canada and then moving into the northern Rockies today. This is bringing cooler temperatures, precipitation to the higher elevations of Idaho and into Wyoming. And then we'll see that cold front continue to filter through the Great Basin today and tomorrow for more widespread cooler temperatures, although they will be short-lived, and then we're seeing those winds out ahead of that low today as well. So we do have high risk issued for much of eastern Nevada and Utah for those strong winds and low relative humidities out ahead of that trough. Here, this image on the left shows where we're expecting that precipitation up to 1/4 of an inch in these darker greens here. So a pretty good wetting event for some of our central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming. And then a few showers are possible, thunderstorms across central Utah. Winds are very strong out ahead of that trough out of the north and west, so a cooler wind event, not the typical southwest wind that we usually see with strong winds this time of year. But still low relative humidities across Utah and Nevada, so definitely elevated fire risk there for today. Tomorrow, the cool front will have moved through much of the Great Basin, and we'll just be seeing generally lighter winds with slightly cooler temperatures for the day. I'm not really expecting much in the way of precipitation for tomorrow. And our maximum temperatures are going to be around, in the low 80s for most of the region, a little bit lower across the north, of course, and especially the higher elevations there of Idaho and Wyoming will be in the 70s. Still very hot across Southern California, however, and we'll see that heat build in over the next couple of days. So by Wednesday, that high pressure really starts to develop over far western Nevada, and that's where we'll see our temperatures rebound very quickly. Browns return, will begin to return to much of the geographic area by Wednesday, at least Utah and Nevada. No precipitation expected on Wednesday. Light winds for Utah and Nevada, but we will see some lingering gusty winds out of the west to northwest for eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. 3-day precip totals show a good amount of precip coming to the central Idaho mountains and western Wyoming. Just some lingering showers and thunderstorms over the higher elevations of central and eastern Utah as well. And by Thursday, the high pressure strengthens and expands further into the Great Basin. This is a pretty strong high for this time of year. Temperatures rebound quickly with low relative humidities as well, and that's the case for much of the western U.S. Friday, the ridge kind of remains centered over the Great Basin, continues to strengthen. We see a lot of our PSAs turning back to browns and yellows, even across the north. And the ridge continues to expand and move even further northward into Northern California and up into the Pacific Northwest for some very unseasonably hot temperatures up there as well. And the heat continues into the weekend. Not much change expected. Still very hot and dry for the entire western U.S. Lots of browns on the map for September 6th. The 7-day precip total is just highlighting what we're expecting in the short term. Nothing beyond today or tomorrow. And the extended forecast still calls for very hot temperatures right along the west coast, still warm temperatures over the Great Basin, below normal precipitation for the Great Basin and up into the Pacific Northwest. So it's still going to be pretty high fire risk and fire potential as we head into the middle of September. This concludes today's fire potential briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.